The year is 1517, okay? Martin Luther was thrown out by the Roman Catholic Church for two major reasons. One of them, he refused to accept the fact that the Pope can't make mistakes. He said, no, we have to read our Bible. Regardless of the Pope says, we have to stick to the facts. And the second reason, he objected to a concept called indulgences, where you go to the church and you buy from them real estate, land in paradise. And if you don't have money, you don't get paradise. So of course the church was making a fortune out of this, and the historians even tell you that a wise man went and said, I don't want paradise, I want to buy the hellfire. They said, we're selling paradise. He said, I want the hellfire. So they gave it to him for a cheap price. And he went to the market and he said to the people, announcement, I own the hellfire, don't worry, nobody's going. Of course that ruined the business. So they forced him back and paid him heaps of money to buy it back from him. So Martin Luther objected to these things and he called for the Protestant Reformation to the end of it. But that's when the crossroads began. 20 years later, 1536, William Tyndale is executed. Why is he executed? Because he translated the Bible for the first time in history into the English language. And he was executed for it. How dare you let the people know what exists in their book? That was the implicit message. And then his body was burnt at the stake. The crossroads are becoming more of a reality. Fast forward 100 years. 1642. Galileo. You guys studied Galileo in school? Sun is the center of the universe, not the earth. He dies in 1642 after 7 years of house arrest. Why was he under house arrest? He said, sorry, science says, scientific revolution is bubbling now. Science says the earth is not the center, which the church would say, but it's actually the sun. So they invited him and they took him downstairs into the dungeon and they gave him a tour of the instruments of torture, and he pulled back his statements, but the statement already went out. It doesn't come back. And he spent the last 7 years of his life in that house of his, and he died therein. That was the beginning of the Enlightenment, and more or less the crossroads. It was the death of the religion, or the beginning of the death of the religion. Fast forward 100 years. Denis Diderot, the French philosopher, basically told the world, listen, man will never be free until the last king is strangled by the entrails, the intestines of the last priest. He said, listen, this religion thing was a hoax. It was used by the governments to keep the monarchs in power, to keep the kings dictators, and they justified it religiously. This was all a scam. And though he died before it, it was said, the historians tell you that that statement, man will never be free, was actually the chant of the people in the streets in the French Revolution. Fast forward 100 years. 1848, Karl Marx publishes his Communist Manifesto, and he says, and I quote, religion is the sigh of the suffering, meaning it's just some made-up stuff to make you feel better. And it's the opium of the people. It's just a drug to sedate you. There's no real basis behind it. And that was European history for you. That's where the rise of atheism came from. It was an overreaction. And that's human nature, by the way. When you feel betrayed, you overreact most of the time, and you generalize. When you go on vacation, they steal your wallet, you come back, they say, how's that town? You say, oh, they're all a bunch of thieves. When only one guy robbed you, right? So religion as a concept in its entirety was thrown out. And they said, if we want to be the modern world, we have to let go of religion. And of course, overreactions also, they're usually unreasonable. They're over, right? So the human being more or less was reduced to an intelligent animal in the perception of the West nowadays, aren't we? That explains that wild West, right? That was spearheaded by a feeling of betrayal and angered that they were shackled by the concept of religion. And also not very scientific, not very factual either, but that was the West. What does it have to do with Islam? Absolutely nothing. And that's exactly the point. You see, Islam disabled, deactivated this dilemma from day one. There was never any crossroads in Islamic thought.
Dreams tell you things that we don't know. But the dreams agree with the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. For any dreams that go against the sunnah is not a dream from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's from the